I will be explaining why I believe that lobbyism should be abolished in America. Just a quick statement to gather your attention to me is there are 537 elected federal officials in the United States. There are 11,509 registered lobbyists in the United States. That equates to 21 lobbyists for every senator and representative in the United States. Personal lobbyists who can anything that. I threw this up there because it is a little dicey, but it kind of gets my point across. It says lobbyists helping corporations run America since 1869 when lobbyism was legalized. Now, I'm going to explain lobbyism just because I don't know if everyone knows the exact definition of it. Lobbyism is defined as the act of attempting to influence decisions made by officials in the government. According to dictionary.com, a lobbyist is someone usually paid, but not necessarily, by a business to persuade legislators to vote in a particular manner. They exist at every level of government, from federal to state to municipal. Municipal would be your own municipality, such as your local town government. And over 300 corporations are involved in United States lobbyism. Who are lobbyists? Now, there's 11,000 of them, so there's quite a few. However, an extraordinary amount, over 400, used to be representatives or senators of your own nation. So after their terms are up, these people are allowed to go and receive jobs from corporations to influence other legislators, usually who they are friends with, to vote in particular manners as they are directed by the company they are being paid by. I personally believe that this is a bad thing, and I have stats later to back that up. Their salaries can be huge. For the majority of those 400 who used to be actual officials, their salary often exceeds $1 million. And this has led to the belief of many American citizens that that senators and representatives and lobbyists are no longer working in the interests of the American public, mainly in the however they are working mainly in the interest of the corporations that they represent or bought and paid for profit. Now, a clear representation of this is the spending that is happening in lobbyism over the past 20 years or so. So since 1998, it has almost doubled from 1.45 billion to 2.41 billion. This is not reflective of the time value of money. That is just an exponential increase in the amount of money spent towards lobbyism. This was much more back in the 2008, 2007 era when it was actually doubled. However, since the crisis, the recession, and the bubble pop, it has gone down significantly just because there's less money in the U.S. economy to be spent on lobbyism. And the top 5 sectors, which I'll explain in the next slide, account for 70% of the spending on lobbyism in America. These sectors are miscellaneous business, so just everything, finance, health, communications and electronics, such as Comcast, Verizon, and energy and natural resources, which we all know is oil. The majority of lobbyists of that 11,000 are paid for by these 5 sectors. And they are hired mainly to convince legislators to vote in a particular manner. Lobbyism at its base was created to become a voice of the people, for the people, to have particular, of their own representatives to talk as intermediaries to our great lawmakers of this nation. So have you ever heard of the term a grassroots campaign? Anybody? You've heard of the grassroots campaign. That is the actual, not technical definition, but it was the spirit of what lobbyism was supposed to be. It was people getting together and using their own voice to influence their legislators. Have you heard of Change.com? Change.com is a signature site where we as the American people can sign petitions to try and get things done. That is another form of lobbyism through your own personal signature. You can actually influence things. Now I'm going to go through the negative effects because I just went through one positive effect that I was able to single out. How many of you know that pizza is now a vegetable in the United States public school system? A vegetable? It is classified as a vegetable in the United States public education system. This was brought about by 3 main people. Coca-Cola, Del Monte Foods, and frozen pizza manufacturers. A push for healthier food occurred in 2007 to limit unhealthy products for those kids who weren't getting their recommended dose of vegetables. This really frustrated a lot of these companies because they would take a major hit to profits because they would no longer be able to sell their pizzas to schools because they were classified as unhealthy. So they made a push and got it approved and made law that the tomato paste on their frozen pizzas would be classified as a vegetable and would be the vegetable component of the children's lunches in the American public education system. And this is one of the most negative effects of lobbyism that can be pinpointed to one particular instance. This is actually from OpenSecrets.org. And it really, identifies one of the main problems that exists within American lobbyism. And it's just thoroughly disappointing, and it's one of the reasons why I believe that lobbyism should be abolished, because if you can use it for something as ridiculous as this, what are they using it for that we don't actually hear about? Now that sounds very conspiracy of me. However, lobbyism is actually responsible for corn subsidies. Do you know what corn subsidies are? Show of hands. Corn subsidies. Corn is actually costs the American government an incredible amount to grow because it has become one of our main foods. It is in absolutely every single thing you eat. From soda to McDonald's. A chicken nugget from McDonald's is 70% corn, which is a terrifying fact. That is because it is the most versatile food on the planet. You can make it, corn syrup is, its main use, and that's why it is so widely spread. So corn subsidies from the American government were put in by most food manufacturers in the United States because they wanted to make a lot of money. And it's a terrible thing, and it's led to this rather shocking poll that I found on Gallup.com that rates lobbyists under the members of Congress in approval ratings. And this approval rating is for high ethical and moral standards and honesty. I didn't actually include the honesty part. So they are rated under members of Congress, and they are rated under used car salesmen. So it really just leads you to believe that the American public truly does not trust what our government has become and the institutions that are available to change the system in the benefit of such as corporations, are not acting in the best interests of the American public. So my conclusion is that lobbyism was a great idea when it was created. It was created to give the common man the ability to shift the opinions of legislatures once they've already voted their particular representative into power. However, the past 3 decades, since about 1980, corporations have gained an incredible amount of financial and political power in the United States, and this has led to a very corporate policy shift in the American legislature system. And I believe that paid lobbyists no longer have a place in furthering the American people's agenda and should no longer have a place in our democratic system. Thank you. Questions?
I definitely agree that it's gone out of hand and it's sort of gone away from what it was meant to be, but do you think it should be completely abolished?
That's what I was hoping you'd pick up on, and yes, I'm standing by. I took a very, very strict standpoint in this speech because if you didn't, then nobody would argue with me. Everybody would be like, yeah, that makes sense. So yes, I believe that completely it should be abolished because yes, we have the ability. I'm thinking paid lobbies. Paid lobbyists and paid lobbies such as PACs, super PACs, and things of that nature should be abolished because they no longer have the American regular person in mind when they vote, even if there are negative effects to that.
Well, because I'm not sure what the super PACs and PACs are, but clearly, yeah.
Political action committee. Sorry.
What?
They're a political action committee.
Okay. Because obviously some of the things that they do, like the getting tomato paste saying as it's a vegetable is like just absolutely ridiculous. Obviously lobbying for cigarettes is just absolutely ridiculous because everybody knows they kill people. But there are some good things that lobbyists do, and I feel that you shouldn't abolish it completely because some of the things that they stand up for is in the public's interest, and it's because our voices personally are, when you think about it, really not heard up in the higher aspects of government, so we do need lobbyists to be able to reach that point, and without that, I feel like you lose an aspect of a democracy.
And I don't disagree with you. However, I believe firmly that the negatives of lobbyism outweigh the positives, and that's why regulation would take far too long. And there is actually significant regulation for lobbyism. However, it's not corruption that's the problem, it's a corruption in the form of bribery. There's corruption more in the form of the promise of a future job with a lobbying corporation to these senators after they are done.
Is that proven?
Yes, 400 of them are already, and they are offered jobs immediately after leaving Capitol Hill. And they work on K Street. I don't know the name of the actual street, but it's called K Street. K stands for something. And that's where all of the super PACs and lobbyists' headquarters actually are, and it's right next to Capitol Hill.
So if all this is happening and it's so clear, why isn't anything being done about it?
Because you can't legally do anything about it. You're just taking a job.
So how are we supposed to fix it? Or like, how would you even, yeah, but who's gonna abolish it if it's the people who would abolish it are the people
Well,
who
that's the
would
problem, though, isn't
endorse
it?
it?
I don't really have an example. I don't really have a answer for trying to abolish a corrupt system by asking the corrupt people to get rid of it. I don't have an answer for that. Really my opinion that it should be done.
But you don't even think, if it wasn't corrupt, that there should be lobbyists, but for the good things?
I'm saying the
Without-
negatives,
I know
the
you aren't
negatives outweigh the
supposed to, yeah,
positives,
okay.
and that's why it should be abolished. Not that there aren't positives.
Well, if it wasn't corrupt, then it wouldn't be a problem anyway, so.
You had a little bit of a solution. The change.org angle could bypass all
Yes,
of it,
yes.
right?
But
So,
it works, and it has worked in certain areas, but it doesn't work enough. It is not enough that the American public actually knows about it, enough to use it.
well,